It started with silence. His, not mine. Whole evenings passed without a word between us. So I stopped asking where he was, and started wondering who I could be without him. That's when I met the other man, a quiet stranger with a cruel smile. I knew what I was doing, every step of the way. But when your heart's been starving long enough, even poison tastes like love. The guilt didn't come right away, just the thrill. Then the first lie. Then the second. And after that, it got easier. Until tonight. Tonight, everything changed. Because I think he knows. Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. He stared at me like I was made of glass, and he'd already seen the cracks. I asked him about work. He asked me if I loved him. I dropped my fork. I said of course, but my voice betrayed me. He didn't blink, just nodded. Like that was all he needed to hear. Then he reached into his coat pocket, and my stomach turned. But it wasn't a gun or a photo. It was a hotel receipt. He slid it across the table. No words. And that's when the guilt finally caught up to me. I locked the door. I needed space, or maybe shame. I stared at that receipt like it had blood on it. He hadn't yelled, hadn't accused. That made it worse. What kind of man finds out and just stays calm? Maybe one who's planning something worse than a fight. I replayed every moment with the other man, every lie I'd whispered into both ears. And for the first time, I didn't feel powerful. I felt cornered, because now he had the truth, and I had no idea what he was going to do with it. But I was about to find out. He didn't sleep in our bed that night. I heard his footsteps downstairs, pacing, whispering into the phone. But when I asked who it was, he just said, "No one." She. His voice had changed. Not angry, just colder. I wanted to confess everything, to fall apart in his arms like a coward. But instead, I stood still, pretending I wasn't afraid. He looked at me like a stranger, like something he had to step around. And for the first time in years, I realized I might lose him. Not because he hated me, but because he didn't care anymore. And that hurt worse than rage ever could. I searched his texts, emails, calendar.goal. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I suddenly had to. There was nothing suspicious, nothing obvious, except for one name, repeated over and over. Elena. I didn't know her, but she knew him. I clicked a thread, read every word. My chest caved in. He was confiding in her. Late nights, long messages. She knew about me, knew what I did. And she said one thing that shattered me. Don't stoop to her level. You're better than that. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, but the damage was already done. I stood under the water, hoping it would wash me clean. But some sins don't rinse off. They live under the skin. I kept hearing her voice, Elena, in my head. You're better than that. As if I wasn't worth defending. But she didn't see the nights I cried myself to sleep. She didn't see the empty chairs, the untouched dinners, the fading wedding photo. He was hers now, not in body, but in loyalty. And I realized then, he had already started his own affair. Not physical, something worse, emotional. Kai. And I had no one to blame but myself. If he wanted to play subtle, I could play brutal. He thought I wouldn't notice the shift, the distance, the secret smiles. But I've lived in shadows longer than he has. So I opened the folder I swore I'd never touch. All our finances, his passwords, the ones he forgot I still had. I didn't want revenge. Not really. I wanted to feel like I mattered again. So I started pulling strings. Quietly. I canceled a credit card. A transferred account. It was petty. It was cruel. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than shame. I bought the dress he used to love, the one he begged me to wear and I never did. This time, I wore it for someone else. The man from before, the quiet stranger. He still texted, so I answered. And this time, I didn't feel bad about it. I told myself it was fair. Balance. An eye for an eye. We met for drinks. One laugh turned into two hands grazing across a table. But even as he kissed me, I didn't close my eyes. Because I wasn't imagining him. I was imagining my husband watching. I wanted him to know what betrayal felt like from the inside out. And I wanted him to regret ever going quiet on me. I didn't hear the door open. I didn't hear his footsteps behind me. But I heard his voice. Calm, controlled, lethal. "You really doing this again?" I turned slowly. His phone was in his hand, open to a photo of me and the stranger. Someone had sent it to him. Not me. Not the stranger. Someone else. He didn't yell, didn't cry. Just shook his head like I'd become a story he had already read. "You don't even know what you've ruined," he said. And before I could speak, he was gone. And this time, it felt final. The sun came up like it didn't care what I'd done. I sat in silence, the house too quiet, too clean without him in it. His toothbrush was gone. His jacket. His coffee mug. Little absences that screamed louder than anything he ever said. I stared at my phone, willing it to ring. It didn't. Every second stretched into a question I couldn't answer. Had I wanted him to catch me? To punish me? Because if I did, I'd won, and somehow still lost everything. I took a sip of wine, but it tasted like regret. And I realized I was the ghost now, haunting a life that used to be mine. I went to his office. I had to see him, to explain, to beg. But the receptionist looked at me like I was a stranger. "He's no longer with us," he said. Just like that. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "He worked here yesterday." "Ian?" She shrugged. "He resigned this morning. Cleared everything out." "Yes." "How?" I turned to leave, heart pounding, hands shaking. Where had he gone? Why didn't he tell me? He was erasing himself. From me. From everything we shared. I'd broken him. And now, he was disappearing. Piece by piece. And I couldn't stop it. I found her address. Elena's. I didn't have a plan. Just a letter and 1,000 apologies I'd never say aloud. She opened the door slowly, eyes guarded but unsurprised. I said, "I'm not here to fight." Nea, Isasa, Dewashalo, BC. She let me stand there in silence for a long time before speaking. He stayed with me. One night. That's all. Neobey. My breath hitched. I hadn't even asked. He left before sunrise. Didn't say a word. Looked broken. Duh. I handed her the letter. She didn't take it. Instead, she said, "You hurt him long before I ever met him." Yeah, why? And then she closed the door. Softly, like I was already gone. I finally found him not in an apartment or a hotel. Just a quiet park, suitcase by his side, waiting for a train. He saw me, and for a moment, something flickered, then faded. I said his name like it might bring him back. He didn't smile, didn't move, just said, "Why are you here now?" I tried to explain the loneliness, the spiral, the ache, but he shook his head. You looked for comfort. I needed commitment. I reached for him. He stepped back. "I don't hate you," he whispered, "but I can't love you anymore either." And then he turned and walked away. I came home to silence. Familiar now. Deserved. The photo album was still on the shelf. Still smiling. Still lying. I pulled out the pages one by one. Ripped them like they'd hurt me first. Our honeymoon. Our first apartment. His hand on my stomach the day we thought we were pregnant. Memories burned slower than I expected. I didn't cry. There were no tears left to give this version of me. The past wasn't ours anymore. It was evidence of how deeply I failed, and how little forgiveness I had left, even for myself. In that room, the only thing louder than silence was memory. I left the door open, not out of hope, out of habit. Every creak in the floorboards made me pause, listen, wish. But he never came back, and no one else ever would. Not really. I wandered the halls at night like a ghost, retracing what used to be home. Even my own reflection avoided me now, like it knew too much. They say grief comes in waves, but mine never stopped crashing. I wasn't mourning him anymore. I was mourning the woman I never became. The faithful one. The brave one. The one who told the truth before it was too late. And now, all that's left is the silence she left behind. It took me weeks to book the appointment. Months to say anything worth hearing. She asked when I stopped feeling loved. I said, "I'm not sure I ever did." Isians. We unpacked the silence. The lies. The choices I made like bruises I painted over. I kept asking her the same thing. Does he hate me? She always answered with another question. Do you hate yourself? I didn't know. Still don't. But something in me cracked open during those sessions. Not healing. Not yet. Just honesty. And that was more than I'd given anyone in a long time. I started writing again. Nothing grand. Just thoughts, pieces, echoes. Some days, it felt like screaming into paper. Others, like breathing for the first time. I wrote about the affair. The night he found out. The way he didn't break. But I did. I didn't send him any of it. It wasn't for him anymore. It was for the version of me that might still exist. Somewhere under the ashes. A woman capable of loving without hurting. Of holding someone without letting go first. Somewhere in those pages I found pieces of her. Not enough to forgive myself, but enough to begin. And that was something. I went to the pier where we used to walk in silence, where the wind always spoke louder than we did. I brought one photo. Just one. The last one we ever took together. I held it for a long time. Too long. Then, I let it go. Watched it fall, twist, sink. No ceremony. No tears. Just gravity doing what it does best. He's not mine anymore. Maybe he never was. But I still love him. In the quietest, most painful way. And maybe that's the price for what I did. To him. To us. To me.